Joining us again tonight is retired Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis to shed some light on this. He's a senior fellow now and military expert with Defense Priorities. Colonel Davis, missiles flying near or over Taiwan. Secretary Blinken called this a significant escalation. How serious is this?
Well, it's very serious. And in fact, I guess if you could call it an escalation, you really have to back up a little bit to the trip by Nancy Pelosi, because that was unequivocally, from the Chinese perspective, an escalation, which they had given significant warning about it, which we ignored to our peril. And now that China has done exactly what they said they were going to do, and now they have ramped up with some military operations that are shooting missiles physically over the island. And for all we know, more may yet be to come. And of course, all of this just heightens the possibility that China will one day use force to reunify Taiwan as they view it. And that's not good for Taiwan, and it's not good for anybody in the Asia-Pacific area.
I know you've called for President Biden to de-escalate if he can, and I know you always try to see these sorts of things from every angle, including from the Chinese angle in this instance. But I guess some people wonder, why try to de-escalate? Just let China run roughshod over a region where the other nations don't want China in charge?
No, that's not the right way to look at it. And those who say that are missing really the huge issue here. Nobody has suggested that China run roughshod over Taiwan. To the contrary, what I'm advocating is that we do everything we can to keep the status quo in place, which is what we've done for decades, since 1979, by maintaining the strategic ambiguity. So it leaves Taiwan completely free and completely secure, and with little to no danger that they're going to be invaded. When we start pushing on China's red line, however, and that's what Pelosi's trip did here, now then we raise the possibility where China will feel threatened and that they will take the very action we're trying to prevent them. Going hard with military, threat and whatnot doesn't help us. It increases the chance that China does what we claim we don't want them to.
Let me play the other side there again. China does not want the status quo. They've made very clear in the next maybe 18 months, maybe 5 years, they intend to take back Taiwan, if by force, if necessary. They've said as much publicly. So the U.S. might want status quo. They said that's off the table. So do we not have to play their game?
No, I don't think that's what they're saying. In fact, if you look carefully at what their statements have been really consistently for the last couple of decades in particular, they say that they want the potential for eventual reunification, and they expressly say under peaceful conditions and peaceful terms, and that they will use force only if Taiwan announces independence or that they reach a point to where they don't believe it's ever going to be possible. So we have said we want the status quo to maintain. They have said they were satisfied with the status quo as it is, as long as the potential for reunification is still on the table, peaceful reunification. That's the big change right there. What they're not saying is that they're going to invade the country within, any kind of time frame. That's something that the West says a lot, but China has never said that.
Non-interventionism is on the rise. It seems like in both parties here in the U.S. Isolationism, that's another thing. Is it appropriate to say, as several presidents have, we're not going to go looking for a conflict, but we will answer one if we see aggression out there? Because, number one, we want a free East Asia. Number two, we have economic interest involved as well.
Oh, we have huge economic interest involved, which is why I'm so adamant that I'm anything but isolationism. I reject that title in every way, shape, or form. I am for dealing with reality, as you point out, and doing everything we can to improve the circumstances, security, and economic interest of the United States. If being hard and pushing in a certain direction against anyone, China, Russia, or anyone else, makes sense and helps America, I'm all for it. As I served in the military for 20 years, I went to 4 combat deployments. I've got no problem with that. But if, on the other hand, we start pushing in ways that don't help us, that increase the chances that we may be affected economically or militarily, I'm definitely against that. And that's why I say in this case, what we have to do is protect our interests. And when you're talking about especially what the Constitution says in the 1973 War Powers Act, we can respond militarily if we're attacked or the imminent attack is threatened on our people or our armed forces. That does not mean that we can use military force because a political outcome or an economic outcome is happening in a way we don't want or relations between other countries, that's not supposed to be on the table for us.
Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, as always, thanks for helping us walk through some of the toughest things out there. I never want to be insubordinate, but I like you letting me ask you the tough questions. Thank you.
I always like tough questions. Ask away.